Greetings. This brief video is intended for my graduate students with a few tips and ideas regarding their case studies, modules, and papers. And so I just want to go over a few items that may help. I've posted some material. Of course, I have the specific assignments online, and my recommendation is to read the instructions carefully, noting each particular point to cover. And then if you have any questions, please email me and I'll be glad to address those questions. And I have a document on introduction to my graduate level web courses, but I wanted to read a few things from that. In terms of a few tips in preparing your assignments, please note the due dates, of course, and those are in the third column of the syllabus. And in terms of content, make sure, please, that you respond to each question in the assignment. There may be one question or there may be 5 or 6 questions. And make sure that you present a clear understanding of the issue and that you are able to synthesize and integrate information in a coherent way. Make sure that you cover the objectives, basically, of the assignment, and provide a critical analysis of the questions with a focus on the complexity of the issue and some of the debates and some of the arguments and some of the inconsistencies, perhaps, among researchers and the research findings, and trying to put together an analysis that takes into considerations the limitations of what we know. So you may want to point out strengths and weaknesses at some point. Comparing and contrasting often is useful as well. One of the questions I get over and over again is, how long should my paper be? And I really don't have a specific answer, but I'll try to do my best to provide some guidelines. First, take a close look at the assignment. Really, I would rather see a shorter paper that answers the questions in a creative, critical manner than a longer paper that just kind of summarizes things. And so I'm thinking maybe with the modules or the case studies being a little shorter, and the papers, the comparative analysis paper, for example, in my law and social control course, or my policy paper in the policy analysis course, a little bit longer. And I'd say that the range is usually around 4 to 8 pages, probably with an average of around 5 type double-spaced pages. I'm just trying to give you an estimate. Again, I'm focusing on what content is in the actual document. And so hopefully that helps. The length will depend on the assignment and also the materials you decide to present. Sometimes you may have an appendix which has additional material that doesn't necessarily need to be within the text but may be useful as well. So the main focus is on the content rather than the actual length of the paper. Also, I would like you to make sure that you use the appropriate referencing format. I recommend using the American Psychological Association, and you can find the guidelines at apastyle.apa.org. That's the American Psychological Association. This is the actual current style manual. It's called the Publication Manual of the American Psychological Association, 6th edition. Very nice blue. Oops. And this is a concise rules of APA style. You know, the one that we keep in our glove compartment whenever we need a resource right away to figure out how to reference something or the appropriate formatting. Excellent resource guide. I have both. And if you go online, though, you can get the information there, I think, to adequately provide the referencing. And also, they have a sample paper. I would print that thing out or download it. It's a PDF file, and refer to that. It gives you a wealth of information on the APA style. The main thing is to avoid plagiarism or copying other people's ideas, which is clearly a violation of research ethics, and will get one in a lot of trouble at the university as well. And so if we use other people's materials, we want to give them credit, and we cite them. And so the APA manual also demonstrates how to cite. Let me mention now, if you use, the criminal justice or the sociology referencing style, that is fine as well. They're somewhat similar, but that's fine as well. The main thing is that you give credit where credit is due, and avoid plagiarism. Also, please consult the University of Central Florida Writing Center, which has a wealth of information. The library also has modules that show how to use different APA formatting and other styles, and how to construct a paper and the like. I like to sometimes use examples. Here's my favorite journal, Homicide Studies. And here's an article in the 2011, oh, what do you know? Violentization Theory and Genocide by Mark A. Winton, some character at the University of Central Florida Department of Criminal Justice. Now, what I want to just point out is that, for example, if I'm writing about genocide, I might say Winton, and then put in parentheses 2001, applies violentization theory constructed by Lonnie Athens, parentheses 2001, to address genocide. So if I'm kind of summarizing things, I'm going to put the author or authors and the date. But if I'm quoting, I'm going to put the author, authors or date, and also the page number. And that's within the text, to make sure you do that. So I might say, according to Winton, and in the parentheses, put 2011, comma, P period 365, close parentheses. And then I would put, for example, the quotation, brutalization. This stage occurs when one is taught how to engage in violent behavior. And then end of quote. Or there's other ways to do that too. You might say Winton, comma, 2001, and then do the quote and then the page number. So, please consult the APA format and look at their sample guidelines for that. There's several ways to do that. But I just wanted to make sure to give you, the idea of what's important. And also wanted to point out the importance of the critical thinking that goes into this work. And for example, Jay Albanese does an excellent job in The Criminologist, the newsletter, The Criminologist, which you can get online. And in The Criminologist, he goes ahead, and I'm trying to look up, unfortunately, I'm trying to look up the actual date here. On page 19, he has an excellent overview. And what I will have to do is, okay, here we go. In volume 35, number 2, March, April 2010, starting on page 18 and continuing on to page 19, Jay Albanese has an article in the teaching tips column called The Practice of Critical Thinking. If you get The Criminologist online, then you can go ahead and you can actually get the newsletter and take a look at this in greater detail. But what he does is he talks about a method to evaluate viewpoints and to think critically, and does a really nice summary, asking questions like, for example, check out the author's background. When you're looking at something, make sure it's a reputable source, basically. And what are the main points? Dr. Albanese points out that we need to address that, and to begin to think critically about the informations, the resources. Are there errors as the facts are presented, or are there political or ideological type statements or arguments in there? Are the assertions supported, or are they unsupported? And based on the study, can you say anything else about larger segments of society? That's the generalizability factor. And he also gives you some warnings of what to look out for. In another article by Jerry H. Lips, Judging Authority, Volume 28, Number 1, The Skeptical Inquirer, February 2004, talks about critical thinking skills, for example, asking questions, why, defining and outlining the problem, taking a close look at the evidence and looking at the assumptions or biases which might be present as well, and assessing and analyzing the reasoning and looking at the coherence and logic of the interpretations and so on. So Lips does an excellent job in the skeptical inquiry. And that's just to give you a few ideas. And again, I think what's very useful is find some models out there of the work that you're interested in pursuing, and take a look at those articles and see how they make their arguments, and maybe cite that work as well. And I can see I've gone over the 10 minutes, but Google gives me 15 because I ramble. But I'll go ahead and wrap up, and I hope that this helps. And if you have any other questions, please email me and I'll respond. And also, I'll use your questions to provide further information in these. Thank you, and have a nice day or a nice night.